always good to come back to Auckland to do anything, because I lived here for 22 years. Now I live in Melbourne, and always an excuse to come back to Auckland makes me happy. Talking about happiness, how do you feel right now? Pretty happy? Yep. If you were to rate your happiness in factors between 1 and 10, 1 being the unhappiest and 10 being the happiest, think of a number. What would it be now? 1 unhappiest, 10 happiest. What is your happiness rating? Now, what I'd like to do is do an interactive cumulative graph of this happiness factor amongst people in this room, or whatever this space is called. And as I get to 10 steps towards happiness, I'll take 10 steps to happiness. I'll count on each step. And what I want you to do is start clapping or making some noise as I get to the number that you've rated yourself as your happiness rating right now. Are we ready? Have you not had morning tea yet? Are we ready? Yes. Right. So start clapping as I get to the number, and don't stop till I get to 10, so that there's a cumulative graph, right? If your happiness rating is 1, start clapping now. 2, 3, 4. Continue clapping. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's good. It's good to know that I'm surrounded by mostly happy people today. No one rated themselves below 6. Right? And I want to keep it that way. And to celebrate this happiness, what I want to do is share this cake story with you. Right? About a couple of years ago, when my daughter Amber turned 6, we as a family decided that, it's a good time to teach her to learn to bake. And what better way to learn to bake than to bake a cake? Right? So I helped her out with the ingredients of the cake on the kitchen bench, and she's all excited about this first cake that she's going to bake in her life. Measuring all the correct quantities of the ingredients and putting in the cake mix, mixing it up, and putting in the oven for it to bake. And now she's peeking through the see-through glass window of the oven door, looking at the progress of this cake while it's being baked. After a few minutes, her excitement turned into a little bit of concern. And she goes, "Papa, look at that." I said, "What?" "Look at the cake, it's going hollow." And I said, "Oh, did you remember to put in the baking powder?" And she goes, "Yeah, I did. Or maybe I didn't. I can't remember." I said, "If you didn't put in the baking powder, it's not going to rise." And we look at the kitchen bench, and the baking powder is as it was, still sitting there. I said, "See, you didn't put in the baking powder." And she's upset, really, really upset, and she thinks for a while, and then she goes, "Papa, I've got an idea. Why don't we open the oven quickly, pull out the cake, sprinkle the baking powder on it, and then push it back in?" Right? Now, the reason I'm telling you this story is because this is exactly what I am seeing and you all are seeing in Agile transformations today. Isn't that right? I get so many calls from executives and leaders of organizations when their cake starts to go hollow. And only when it goes hollow is when I get called. And I'm sure there are many people in here who are experiencing the same thing. "Oh, let's sprinkle some agileness on this cake." Right? And it's quite sad that leaders and executives are treating Agile as an afterthought. Right? Agile is a game changer when it comes to resourcing. Agile is a game changer when it comes to pricing. Agile is a game changer for everything. Right? It has to be pervasive in everything we do. Right? And based on my many years of experience with working with large and small organizations, over the years, I can tell you that these are some of the most common barriers that I've seen organizations face when adopting Agile. Right. Now, as part of IBM, we are now currently undertaking one of the largest ever transformations to have taken place on Earth, affecting close to 400,000 people. And we also have faced many of these challenges. Some of them we've overcome, some we haven't. Right? So what I'll do is I'll talk about those things that we have overcome and we're still finding challenges with. But in the meantime, what I'd like you to do is, I think Edwin forgot to mention that you'll be losing about 2 kgs by the end of the 2 days because it's an Agile conference, so we'll be doing a little bit of moving around, right? So I'll get you to all stand up, please. Right. And what I'd like you to do is think about your own teams, organizations, or any environments that you come from currently. Right. And if you were to rate these ones, one of these ones, as the number one barrier for what's stopping you from reaping the full benefits of Agile, which one of these would you rank as the highest of all? Right. And if you think that cannot change the organizational culture is the number one barrier, you may sit down now. If you think that lack of Agile experts or experience within the organization is the number one barrier, you may sit down now. If you feel that concerns around implementing non-IT programs is the number one barrier, you may sit down now. Cannot change pre-existing frameworks, rigid waterfall models, you may sit down now. Lack of management support, if that's your number one blocker, you may sit down now. Concerns around scaling, distributed Agile, dispersed teams, if that's your number one barrier, you may sit down now. Right, this is interesting. I'm seeing that a lot of people are still standing. Right? And I'm assuming that you've got no barriers, in which case I'd like to work with you guys. Or you've got something that's not here. Right? And if you've got something that's not here, what I'd like to do is during a break or over the lunch period, we'll talk about what are your barriers. But if there's something that's not here or you've got no barriers, you may sit down now. Right? So this is good. Feeling like I'm building a rapport now. I know how happy you're feeling. You know I'm happy, I'm feeling. I know what your barriers are on the. So we'll get to know each other quite well by the end of this session, which is good. Now, the findings in this room here are conducive to what we've seen in other global surveys as well, like version 1, which is one of the most popular of the Agile surveys, say that change, any kind of change, organizational change or resistance to change, is the number one barrier, right? Across organizations that have taken part in this global survey. And what makes change challenging? This is a survey that was done by IBM that were looking at the difference in the way that change was implemented by 150 or 1,500 practitioners worldwide. And they also found that culture and mindset were the two biggest things that people were challenged with when implementing any change, right? And we've got the privilege of Dr. Ahmed Sidki, who talked last year about the 2 secret ingredients of sustainable organizational agility, right? As Ahmed Sidki talks about, the 2 secret ingredients are having the right culture and mindset, right? And to get that wrong, you'll have a rocky ride in your organizational journey or transformation, right? And get that right from the very beginning. You paving a path that's very smooth for the rest of the organization, for everyone involved, right? And I'm really looking forward to his talk tomorrow, which is taking that step even further. So in the same survey by IBM, they looked at what makes changes successful, right? And the number one catalyst by far was executive support, top management sponsorship. Notice how training programs are right at the bottom of this list. Right? It just reminds me of another story I want to tell you. About 5 years ago, when I used to live in Auckland, I was invited by a large insurance company here to help with their rollout of Scrum. And on my first day at this organization, as I'm being introduced to everybody in the IT area and everyone else in the organization, I see that everyone especially from IT that I'm introduced to, is introduced like, oh, here's Mary, she's a program manager, and she's a certified Scrum Master. Here's John, he's an architect, and he's a CSM as well. Here's David, our test lead, he's a certified Scrum Master. And I find that when I'm walking across the floor where the IT team is, most of them, almost all of them, have got a CSM certificate displayed on their desks. All about 150 of them. And I felt so overwhelmed because never, ever in my life I had been amongst 150 certified Scrum Masters all in one place, especially in New Zealand, right? And I'm thinking, I'm a certified Scrum Master as well. Why have they got me here? Because they've got 150 of them here. Why have they hired me? So then I figured, after a while, they had tried to roll out Scrum or Agile 6 months prior to me joining and had failed miserably. And someone told them, fix your culture, fix your mindset. Okay? So how do you fix your culture, your mindset? Do you bring in a coach to fix your culture and your mindset in your organization? You can't fix culture like that. Right? Culture is something that evolves over time, and the people who have the most influence on evolving or shaping that culture are the leaders of the organization. The leaders have a huge influence on how the culture of any organization shapes up or is molded over time. There's a nice article by the Harvard Business Review which talks about this, saying you can't fix culture like that. But you've got to focus on doing things right, on their day-to-day leadership and day-to-day behaviors. The leaders have a huge influence on how the culture is shaped or molded by setting good boundaries, by discouraging bad behaviors and encouraging good behaviors. Right? It's important to note that the culture of any organization is shaped by the worst behaviors that the leaders are willing to tolerate. And what's even more important to note is the culture of any organization is shaped by the best behaviors that the leaders are willing to amplify. Now, all that's good, but how do you really create a culture and encourage all these good behaviors and create a culture that is conducive to the agile ways of working that's needed in organizations today? Right? So based on my experience with working with several organizations over the last 8 or 9 years, trying to transform to agile, I've seen a lot of people failing, trialing things and failing, and there's some things that I've picked out that worked in most organizations. And here are 7 things that I want to talk about, and most of these we are looking at implementing at IBM. And what I want to talk about is Life's too short to learn from all our own mistakes. Learn from other people's mistakes too. Right? So I'll talk about these 7 things for the rest of the session. But first, I'd like to show you this. Everyone knows this guy, right? This picture was taken in the London Olympics when he won his 3rd gold medal, Bolt. Right? The fastest man on earth. And he's proven it time and time again with winning many more gold medals in Rio this year. Now, when you're watching the Olympic Games, what is the number 1 anticipated event within the Olympic Games? 100-meter sprints, the final, where you find the fastest man on earth, right? And it's only 10 seconds. On these days, it's even less than 10 seconds, right? And it's over in less than 10 seconds. Then what? Right? And then you say, oh yeah, then it's gymnastics and beach volleyball and all those things will keep me excited. But I always look for the 4x100-meter relay races, right? Anyone keen on those? 4x100 meters? Because you've got the luxury of having the 4 best runners from the best countries that are sprinting on the track at the same time, and it's a team sport, right? And has anyone here ever had the luxury of watching a 4x100 meters or any relay race live? Yeah. Have you ever noticed the camera is always focusing on the guy on the starting block with the baton? There are other guys on the 100-meter mark. There's another guy on the 200-meter mark. There's another guy on the 300-meter mark on the far end of the track. What are they doing? While they're waiting for the baton, what are they doing? Have you ever seen the camera focus on them while they're waiting? They might be signing autographs, the 300-meter guy there, because it's going to be 30 seconds by the time the baton gets to them. They can be signing autographs there. But I've never seen the camera focused on them, have you? No, because who cares? Because it's the baton that we need to focus on. The camera is always focusing on the baton, and the team that gets the baton over the line first wins the race. Now, let's have this race here. Right? So if we were to race on this track here, just imagine this is the track. Lane 1, we've got USA. Oh. Lane 2, Jamaica. Lane 3, Canada. Lane 4, Japan. Lane 5, New Zealand. All of a sudden, we're good at sprinting, right? Lane 6, we've got ABC Consulting. ABC Consulting, because they've claimed that they can have 4 runners running 100 meters in sub 10 seconds. And this is how ABC Consulting is going to conduct this race. So what's going to happen is they'll introduce a track manager on the track. Right? And the track manager is going to go to the 100-meter guy. You know what? It's going to be 10 seconds by the time the 100 meters are run. And in that 10 seconds, there's a high jump happening just beside here. Can you do that high jump quickly? Come back in time to continue on this race and give the baton to the 200-meter guy. The 200-meter guy, you know what? 20 seconds by the time the baton comes to you. You can do that long jump over there and be back in time to take the baton to the 300-meter guy. The 300-meter guy, it's going to be ages. 300 meters, 30 seconds. There's another race happening here on track 2. It's only 100 meters, and you'll run it in sub 10 seconds. And you'll be back in no time to receive the baton to complete the race for us. Right? And then we will make sure that we are all fully utilized. Right? And the race starts. The baton gets to the 100-meter guy. He's huffing and puffing his way back to the track here. Takes the baton to the 200-meter guy. 200-meter guy, still finishing off the long jump, comes back in time, and then runs the wrong direction. And people say, oh, no, the other way, because he's got no context of this race. And then it starts running to the 300-meter guy. that poor guy still waiting for the 100-meter race to start on track 2. It's nowhere to be seen here. Right? While the other runners are all finishing the race. And it's not just consulting organizations. Many organizations are conducting races this way, where the focus is on keeping the runners running rather than the baton moving. We are all focusing on the wrong things. And it's a broad generalization I'm making because that's what I'm noticing in industry today. So let's focus on the right things. Now, I have to admit that not too long ago, IBM was operating like this as well. And we changed quickly. We had to change quickly to survive. Right? Especially in the leadership areas where, as leaders, we are proud of all the work that's under our portfolio. And we never say no to taking on any new projects or anything like that, right? That's true, right? Because it makes us look important. It makes us look more in demand. The more things we have in our control, it makes us more in demand. Right? I'll be the first to admit that. And what we have had to do at IBM is change the thinking around this, where we treat work in progress as a liability rather than an asset. And we are focusing on finishing things rather than starting things. Easier said than done. It's easier at the task level when you're micromanaging or talking about Scrum teams and saying, oh, yeah, don't do more than 2 things at once, or small Agile teams, yeah. But move it up to the leadership or executive level, and I can tell you that that is a great challenge. Get the leaders to minimize their work in progress. That's a great challenge. Take it by the horns and you will win more races. Right. The key is to slow down to go faster. Slow down to go faster. We all know that there are 3 elements that exist in any good Agile environment. Right? Complete transparency, inspection, and adaptation. We all know that. Right? Yet, when I go to teams and ask them, oh, you are an Agile team? You're the same guys that you were working on an waterfall project last week or last month. Now you've become part of an Agile team. What's different? How do you think differently? What's different for you? What's the answer? We are sprinting faster? No. We've got shorter sprints? No. So what's different? The fundamental difference between an Agile team's thinking and a waterfall or traditional team's thinking is continuously asking themselves, how can we get better? There's nothing else that's more important in the way that an Agile team should be operating, is always thinking of improving whatever they're doing for their customers to return better return on investment. Now, then I find that, oh, yeah, we're doing all of that. I get leaders and managers saying, oh, yeah, our teams do a PIR or post-implementation review. Post-implementation reviews, or also known as post-mortems. How many people have done that or doing that here, right? Post-mortems, the person's already died. The project's finished. Right? It's too late. Oh, it's going to help the next project. Well, that's the hope. I haven't seen many projects where the learnings of another project have been all applied to the next project. Have you? Yet to see one. Right. Then you talk to the leaders, you've got to do these medical checkups while the person's still alive. It's more relevant. All right? So they say, okay, we'll do a retrospective. And then some leaders push back. Oh, no. Every 2 weeks, half an hour for the whole team? That's too much. Because it's not seen as productive time. You're not writing code. I'm seeing leaders that are pushing back on doing these slowing down to go faster rituals. And then we get into a habit eventually to do the retrospectives. And then we start getting what I call this check-in-the-box retrospectives, where, and you'll agree with me when I share this, every single time there's a sticky called that's got good communication. Another sticky, team collaboration, very good. Yeah. What's not going so well? This is a classic. Our test coverage needs to improve. And your retrospectives got that theme every fortnight. Right? This is what I call check-in-the-box retrospectives. It becomes a routine, a waste of time. Right? So how do you beat that? And they say, oh yeah, we do retrospectives. And this is what we did. How do you beat that? My suggestion is to do a pre-mortem. A pre-mortem is when you, before starting the project, go in the future, look back, and see all the things that you can foresee coming your way as risks or things that have gone well, and highlight it. And this is what I've seen Jeff Smith do really well. He started doing this when he was at Suncorp. I used to work at Suncorp with him. And now he's brought that to IBM. And I'll show you one example of what could be done as a pre-mortem. Here's an example of a pre-mortem. And imagine this is an article that's published on the organizational-wide internal internet for every employee to see before even a project gets started. Any new initiative is about to start, and this is an example of a pre-mortem for that. Over the first weekend of July 2017, we put into production our long-anticipated new timesheet system. While the actual release went smoothly, it wasn't without the challenges. The integration to the payroll HR applications were particularly tricky. However, team members of all three departments worked as one team to make sure that everything was okay. The new time system is now in place, and the change management team has done a terrific job to ensure that each and every employee of our organization can seamlessly transition to using this new, fully integrated timesheet system from now on. Well done, team. This project hasn't even started yet. And this has been published for all employees to read and see on the internal internet. Imagine the effect that such an article would have, especially on the employees or team members that are going to be part of this project. They now know exactly what's keeping the CIO awake at night. They now know exactly what the CIO's vision is, what his dreams are. Talking about dreams, this is my favorite quote, by the way. That's why I put it here, no other reason. So this quote was from Martin Luther King Jr. And back in 1963, he did this I Have a Dream speech that we're all familiar with. But back in 1963, there was no Twitter, there's no Facebook, there's no social media, yet 250,000 people turned up to support him, to listen to him. Right. Now, why did they turn up? Simon Sinek talks about this in his book, Starting with Why. Start with Why. And that's a must-read. It's a highly recommended book, Start with Why. And he talks about we follow leaders because not what they do, but why they do it. all of these people turned up because they also believed in his dreams. And Simon talks about there are leaders and there are those who lead. Leaders are people that have institutional authority or power, but those who lead inspire us. And he talks about what we really look for in leaders are not what they're on about, but why they do it. We follow leaders not for them, but for ourselves. And we're all trying to strive towards making our countries more agile, more like the classic examples are the recent elections in the US, and we had elections in Australia as well earlier this year, and I was looking at the websites of all the major political parties, and they were all publishing 21-point policy plans, detailed plans. And just before coming to New Zealand this week, I thought I'll look up the National and the Labour Party here and see what they have to say, because elections coming up next year. Guess what? They've got the detailed plans of everything that they're going to do. But I couldn't see their vision. Where do they want to take the country? I couldn't see that. It wasn't inspiring me, because those detailed plans inspire nobody. It's the dreams, the vision, that you've got to ensure that you're cascading down to the lowest of the levels. I'll tell you another story. About 18 months ago, I was invited to coach a team in Melbourne in a large telecommunications organization. And on the first day, as I'm walking into the organization, this is a Monday morning, 10 o'clock, flying from Brisbane. I've still got my trolley bag, and I've just walked into the room with 25 people. I'm putting back my bag in the corner to get settled, and I overheard someone in this room saying, "Oh, Dipesh is here. We can now kick off our iteration 1. And I'm thinking, I've just literally walked into this organization. I've not even been here 5 minutes. I have no idea about what this project's about. I hope these guys do, because they're wanting me to kick off the iteration in 5 minutes or now. So as a coach, as you do all the icebreakers, do the introductions, get settled, buy some time. And then I break the question. I say, okay, so why are we here? Why are we doing this project? And all 25 of them say, Dipesh, we know you're an Agile coach, but we don't need this fluff here, because we want to get right into the doing. We want to kick off iteration 1 now, and we are ready to get started. I said, yeah, just help me out. Just tell me why. What is the driver for this project? And they go, don't waste time. We know exactly why we're doing this, because this is our 3rd go at starting this project. So eventually I get them to make it easy. I said, okay, I'll make it easy for you guys. Just write one sticky saying, what is the driver for this project? And put it up on the wall. Eventually, of the 25 people, I get 3 stickies on the wall. And I read out the 3 stickies. Right. The first one is from the project manager from the organization. He's got his own views on things. The second sticky is from the architect, and he's got his own agenda. And the third one is from a program manager from the vendor. And we all know what they're like, right? So all mutually exclusive. And what was happening there was, we all know that things we need to do are doing the right work, doing the work right, and the leaders in this organization and many organizations that we see are not focusing on doing the right work. They're more focused on the team level, micromanaging the teams and giving them detailed plans on over what's to be done. And the team loses sight of the overarching vision. They have no idea about the vision or the strategy or the reasons why this project's to be done. They know what's to be done. And when that happens, you can forget about the passion being on the ground level. And if there's only one message that you want to take out of this talk here today, make it this one. As leaders and executives, ensure that you're cascading down your dreams to the lowest of the operational levels. Then only the people on the ground will be sharing your vision, your dreams, and your passion. Now, this is a common pattern that I'm seeing in many organizations, especially large ones that are distributed or doing distributed work, where even when they are not distributed, there's an area in level 7 of the building where all the testers are sitting. Level 6 are all the BAs. Level 5 is all the developers. Right? In IBM, we had it even worse. All our testers were in Pune. All our developers were in Philippines. All our BAs were in Sydney. Right? That's how we were structured. And we had to change that quickly to survive, again, to make sure that we move that siloism or functional teams so that we have end-to-end capability by location. And we had to change this to react quickly to the demand for doing scaled work or work at scale, ramping up teams up and down very quickly, and moving to a scenario where we were minimizing handoffs and reacting quickly to our clients. Right? So having end-to-end long-lived teams is something that lots of organizations have done. But you look at those, and they're like smaller, more nimble, startup kind of organizations where you say, oh yeah, we can follow that. But what we're trying to do this is with over the last two years, we've created 2,000 squads for 20,000 people globally, where all of these are end-to-end capable teams where they're minimizing the handoffs. There's more accountability in each of these teams. There's less coordination required from one country to another, especially when you're working at IBM. You'd know how we have to deal with the US and China and India and Philippines all at the same time on one project. So how do you minimize the coordination that's with time zone challenges and things like that? So we've done that so that we have all people in one location that are able to deliver end-to-end product. Right? Now, what do you do within those teams to make sure that they are operating like a well-oiled machine? Right. Now, let me ask you this. When you've got an experiment, a new idea that has been successful, only a small one, and someone's tried it and it's been successful in your organization, are the people that have been working on that project or that experiment rewarded? Most likely, right? What if it fails? What if that experiment fails? Are they still rewarded? Are they punished? And then, after a failure, are those employees still as keen to try out another new experiment? The answers to these questions say a lot about how safe it is to innovate and thrive in your organization. Because it tells you all about how safe is it to try out new things in your organization. I'll go back to the happiness survey that we did at the beginning of this session here. How many people have had surveys thrown out at you by your organization saying, how happy are you feeling today? Right? In the last 6 months? Or how engaged or anything like that? Yeah, most of us, right? Yeah. Now, raise your hands if those surveys were anonymous. Again, most of us. And it says, this survey is anonymous. You can say whatever you like, no one's going to know. Right? Because it's a safe environment. Bullshit. There are mixed messages that you are portraying out to your employees when you put out anonymous surveys, because the underlying text is, it is not safe to speak out in this organization. That's why we have to go anonymous. Right? It underscores the fear of speaking up. Right? Now, let me ask you another personal question. I told you we'll get to know each other quite well by the end of the session. Think about your KPIs. How they're structured. How are you measured? Are you measured on, Jeff talked about this, on the outcome or the business value that you're creating for the organization or for your customers? Or are you measured on delivering projects on time and within budget? A lot of organizations are now expecting employee behavior to suddenly change without changing any of the aspects of how people are measured generally. Right? And one of the patterns that I'm seeing a lot of in many organizations that I go to, I've coined them as PDD. Can anyone have a go at coming up with performance-driven development? Close, but not quite. What I'm thinking of here is something that leaders are fixated about these days, and even the Agile teams are fixated about these days because it's easy to measure. What was that? Profit? That would be nice. What I'm talking about is points-driven development. Just like ATDD, BDD, TDD, I've coined up PDD for a bad reason. Don't do this. Right? Even though I've invented the term, I'm saying don't do it, because what I'm seeing is leaders pushing teams to produce more points so that they look good at the steering committee meetings. And I'm seeing reports going up to the steering committees where they're reporting on, oh, Team A did 69 points, Team B did 25 points. Oh, Team B, 25. They did 69. What happened? Right? And they get into a discussion around story points rather than this business value. Avoid it. Right? It doesn't need to go outside the team. It's for the team to measure their own acceleration rather than anything else. So we need to create environments where we are creating or making it easier for teams to deliver those results rather than measuring those results. Right? The leadership role is changing or evolving to be more difficult than ever before, especially in Agile environments. Right? And we've got to create environments where it's encouraging people or making it easier. And this is where executive leadership support, or the thing that we talked about at the beginning, the number one catalyst, executive leadership support, comes in really handy. Right. Now, earlier this year, I was asked to coach a team that had a very aggressive target, a time frame, and the scope was fixed. And they said, oh, it's only Agile that can deliver this project, because Waterfall, we will never, ever be able to deliver this, so we'll use Agile. And I got invited to be the Agile coach. And in the first week of with the team together, I noticed that the leaders were nowhere to be seen. The exec managers and everybody like that, they were nowhere to be seen in the organization, probably hidden on another level or another building. Then I reached out to the EGM of the of the department. I said, you know what? It would be nice for you to come and be involved in some of the things that we do with this Agile team here. Maybe you can do a motivation talk or something. And he agrees. He says, oh yeah, next Tuesday morning, I'll be in that building. I'll come around and do a motivation talk for the team. And I'm all excited. good. We've got some engagement from leadership here now. So Tuesday morning, he comes in and he does a talk. And I'm standing beside him, and the team's all out there on the floor. And this is word to word the motivational talk by that EGM to the team that I'll read out to you right now. He says, the November date is fixed. There is no room for negotiation with the date. The scope is fixed and socialized with the business. I empower you all to do whatever is necessary to deliver the agreed scope by this date. You are empowered to make all decisions with regards to how you want to implement this new product. If for any reason you are not able to deliver your piece, or if I find that you are delaying your pieces by waiting for answers, I will crucify you. This is word to word, exactly what he said, and I'm standing beside him. I'm almost like lost all feeling in my legs and crumbling down. And these were the exact words, empowering the team. Right? Now, as leaders, we need to realize that it is not just our words and behaviors, not our actions and behaviors, but our words as well that shape or mold the culture and create that environment where teams flourish and individuals flourish. Right? We've got to remember that the words that we use shape the attitude of our others. Right? And we want to be leaders that are using words that project that energy upwards or outwards. Right? Notice there are some words that just drag you down. And there's some words that just project energy upwards. Right? In some scenarios, I hear words like headcount, execute, terminate, all in the same sentence. And it seems like it's a scene from the Terminator movie where Arnold's going to be back and someone's going to get hurt real bad. Right? So, as leaders, we've got a choice of words. Let's use them wisely because the world needs the good energy. Your organization needs your good energy. Your teams and individuals in your teams need that good energy. Use your words wisely to project out that good energy. And finally, it's all about this cake, right? So we've got to remind ourselves, our leaders, our executives, everybody, Agile is not something that can be sprinkled on at the end. It has to be pervasive in everything we do. It has to be pervasive in our actions, in our behaviors, in our ways of working, and also in our words. Right? And just to wrap up, finally, we all know that there are leaders and executives amongst us that are struggling with this notion. Right? Awareness, of course, is the first step. However, turning that awareness into routine action takes a lot of discipline. Right? So what I've done is created this checklist here, which helps leaders identify the good behaviors and the bad behaviors and identify some of the catalysts and nourishers that they can use to project out the good behaviors in teams and make it conducive to having more agile environments. I urge each and every one of you to download this checklist today or whenever you go back to work. And if you're not the leaders of the teams, give it to the leaders of your teams and see magic happen. I can assure you that you will at least start becoming aware of the key elements that need addressing to reap the full benefits of your agile transformation efforts. Thank you.